A slightly different approach now. It's my pleasure to welcome Andy Hewitt of Xeros to blow your mind maybe a little bit. Andy.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Andy Hewitt. I'm the Commercial Director for Xeros. Not to try and have to live up to anything, but predicting a riot with the music and then being told to wow the crowd. So I'll try and deliver as much as I can in the next 20 minutes or so. The flow of my presentation over the next 20 minutes is going to take a bit of a crystal ball and look a bit into the future and what that may hold. Take a little bit of a look back and see some of the developments that we had in cleaning technologies over the last few decades, and then also introduce what we believe is an alternative to that, and I'll give you some more information about that. So, when we look at the world today, it's changing very fast, and embracing new ideas and new technologies is going to be vital. Every organisation, all of you who own your businesses out there or are working in organisations, must transform yourselves as you evolve to become innovative networks that can attract talent, enable learning, foster productivity, and make sure that you offer insights for different ways of working. I think the key that has been proved certainly over the last few years, the challenge is to embrace innovation or get left behind. Now, I've done some a wide variety of research from different data sources, and I've tried to group the various different themes that are out there into three broad headings. If I look at the first area, which I've entitled sort of sustainability, but that would include climate change, energy, which is constantly in the media spotlight, and also sustainable cities. So not just sustainability, but sustainable cities and the development of sustainable cities as we move forward over the next 10 years. The second area is broadly entitled innovation, but really that's about predictive organisations, potentially newer enhancements, and obviously robotics and things would fit into those areas. And these are really broad areas and broad developments, but lots of data and lots of surveys that support the development of these. And then the third area, the final area, is just broadly entitled learning, but in there I would put education as opposed to just specifically learning. I would also include the Generation X that we hear a lot about. Definitely social media, which I believe was touched on earlier on this morning, and again will be tomorrow for those of you that are coming tomorrow as well. And in there I would sit big data. So lots of things driving the future. Now, and there won't just be isolated areas, because there's trend convergence, so these trends will move across each other. And they're not linear and they're not isolated. So if I look at Generation X, there's a lot of data support. They're becoming a lot more interested in sustainability. And that green generation is really starting to develop, and that will continue to develop over the coming years. So if I look outside of our industry, and here's just a snapshot of one company's share price over the last 3 years, and this organisation has tripled their share price in 3 years. And it's these guys. And the developments at Apple are well documented, so I'm not going to go into those today, but I'm sure there are many people in the room that have got an iPad, or they've got an iPhone, or probably multiple versions of both of those. And they've really developed, and the key to their success was innovation. Without a doubt, innovation. A fantastic leader, but also a really innovative organisation that embraced change and really took themselves forward. So if we take examples from outside of our industry, and then we start to look at the wider laundry and cleaning industry, and we've come a long way, or maybe we haven't. I mean, yes, we've developed as we move forward, We've moved into different washing processes. We've brought in automation, without a doubt, and we've brought in developments in mechanics. There's also been a lot of chemical advances. We've heard already the speakers this morning in Green Earth and just previously with Rob with wet cleaning. So there are a number of developments that have already gone on within the industry. But have we really fundamentally changed anything within the laundry process? Not really. That laundry process hasn't really changed in over 60 years. It's still water, detergent and mechanical action, and those three kind of variables coming together. So what could the future look like? Well, I think the future, if I look back at my areas that I talked before, is it about sustainability? Is it about becoming much more sustainable in our operation? Is it about innovation and new innovations? And here's just one that I took from Electrolux here. But there are a number of manufacturers that are bringing in innovation and driving things forward. Or is it more about real advances in learning, and could it be robotics that comes more into play? Well, it could be a number of these things, but the area that I think it could it be to do with the developments in polymer science? We just play the...
For a brighter way to clean laundry and save precious water with Xeros. The revolutionary laundry process that uses the cleaning power of polymer beads. Millions of them. Unlike water, they're designed for cleaning. Fizzing with polymer power, they work like hand washing, gently rubbing stains away. The beads are like sponges, absorbing dirt and stray colours into their structure, so clothes look new for longer. Millions of beads, cleaning and cleaning. The result? The best ever cleaning that saves our water, your money, and cares for all our laundry. Hand washing to the power of a million.
So just introducing Xeros to you, and I'll just give you a quick potted history. The organisation has been going for over 6 years, since our inception at Leeds University. That's moved through a variety of tests, both within the lab and then out into field trials, both in the UK, Europe and in North America. And that led to our global launch across last year in 2013. We also last year signed a joint development agreement with BASF, the largest chemical company in the world, to continue to develop our advances in polymer science. So that just takes you through a little bit of history. So we've not just been going for 12 or 15 months, we've in fact been around for 6 or 7 years now. And the mission for Xeros is all about replacing areas where there is aqueous cleaning with the opportunities for polymer bead cleaning. And absolutely at the core of the organisation is that sustainable message that we want to save the most precious commodities that the planet has, so namely in water but also in energy. And these are not just sort of virtuous elements, but absolutely key to what we do within the Xeros process. And then finally, we'll continue to innovate, we'll continue to drive forward. Under that theme of innovation, our R&D team are constantly looking at the process and also the beads and how we can drive and develop those much more over the coming years. Now, there's two big questions that always get asked, because the two questions that I asked when I first joined the organisation was, how do the beads work? And secondly, how do you get them in and how do you get them out of the machine and the clothing? So I'll pick up those two key questions, and then if anybody does have any others, I'll happily take those afterwards or in the break. So first of all, how do the beads work? Well, first of all, we have over 1 million beads in our mid-sized machine, and the beads interact with the clothing and gently rub against the cloth. So effectively, they're increased agitation and releasing the stain. So that's the first stage. The second stage is in the polymer backbone of the beads. They have a slight polarization, so we have a slight positive and negative charges with hydrogen and oxygen atoms attached to the backbone of the polymer chain. which gives us a polarization which allows stains, which generally food-based stains have a polarization, so they get attracted towards the beads. And oil-based stains, because we are a polymer, they also get attracted. So the majority of stains will get attracted towards the beads, and that's the second area that they develop. And then the third and final area is the beads actually lock away. So at their glass temperature and in water, they slightly oscillate, which creates tiny little microscopic gaps in the surface of the polymer, and that allows the beads to trap stray soil, soluble soil, stray dye into the bead, which will then never come back out. Now the beads are recyclable, 100% recyclable, so we effectively view this as sort of borrowing it from the polymer supply chain. We borrow the beads and then we recycle them, and Xeros takes the responsibility to make sure that they get recycled when they come towards the end of their natural life. So there is a sustainable message within the plastics that we're using as well. So that's how the beads work, and that's how they work to increase the performance of cleaning. And they have to work in conjunction with a range of chemicals that we've developed, and they also work in conjunction with the machines that we've developed. And it's the machines that I'll move on to now to explain a little bit about how they work. Now, on the outset, this looks like just a standard washer extractor. There's a couple of changes. We do have our own proprietary software and our controller there, but generally it looks quite similar to a standard machine. But the big difference is what goes on inside the machine. If we could just play the video. Now, you'll see our offices in Sheffield here. What I've got in here is, in a moment, you'll see coming down the centre is the beads actually coming into the machine, so it's much easier to do this. Rather than bringing a machine in with me, I thought we'd show a video. So these are the machines in our laboratory, in our testing area. Now, standard, you load the machine up as you would normally do, and then the beads enter the machine, and then you see the beads there just coming down in this kind of sort of slurry of water, so there's a small amount of water bringing it in. You now notice that the beads are all moving around. The other thing you'll notice is there isn't a dip level in here, so we use a lot less water in the process, because the beads are doing the majority of the cleaning. So that's really how the beads work, and that's how they work in the machine. We've got a variety of global patents. Clearly, as a business like ours in 6 or 7 years of development, this is crucial to our business. But on the left-hand side here, you can see that these are our spray nozzles. They allow us to spray water on rather than filling the drum with water, so that allows us to use a lot less water because we don't need water as much. We just use water as a lubricant rather than a cleaning mechanism. The second area here is this device here, which is our sump, which is where the beads are stored, and that's stored underneath the drum. So the beads are stored here, and then you can see here that the beads get circulated round, and then they enter the top of the drum, as you saw on the video a moment ago. So the beads are continuously moving around, and then this device here is our separator, and that separates the majority of water from the beads. So that some water still comes in, but actually it allows us to move the beads around here, and it also keeps a lot of that dirty water away from the garments, which also helps with kind of redeposition. So that's how we move it round. We move the beads round in our wash cycle, and then once the wash cycle is finished, we have a number of other cycles to take the beads out. So we have a number of different specific titles that we've developed that can then remove the beads from the cloth. They drop back down, they're held in the sump, and so you should never have to kind of come into contact with the beads. However, we are a bead cleaning company, so there are beads and there are beads involved in the wash, so that every now and again we do get a few beads that do come out with the wash, but you're talking in the kind of single to double digits, and that's a pretty low percentage when you've got 1.3 million beads in the machine. So that's a bit about how it works. And then I just wanted to touch on why we believe that it's such a new and key innovation within the laundry and cleaning industry. The first area that we had to prove is that we were doing it better than anybody else out there, because we brought something new, and we had to make sure first and foremost that we were a better cleaning mechanism, because that's fundamentally what the technology will be employed to do. So we looked at 4 areas in our testing with our partners, and these were the key areas, all related to stain removal and performance. And There's a lot more scientific data that goes behind this, but I just thought I would just share a couple of examples of what we do. So we use WFK stain sheets. These are industry standard sheets where we can measure the performance in both a Xeros wash and a conventional wash. So we can measure the difference, and we can then show and prove that we can get stains out better at lower temperatures with less water, less chemicals than your conventional wash. The second area that we looked at was these EMPA sheets. These are blue sheets. You can see they're about a foot square, and they've got tiny little blue dots on them, and they're designed to come off in the wash. And they show the uniformity of clean. So have you got a clean that goes across the total wash? And in the centre here, you see that that's washed in Xeros, and it's pretty uniform. In your conventional wash, you can sometimes get creases, which you can see here. You've got quite a lot of mechanical action across the crease, but maybe not very much here. This might have been folded underneath. And that's just what naturally happens, but because we've got a lot of beads, it tends to open up the clothing a lot more, so you get a much more uniform wash. And then here we've just got a few examples of some dye sheets. So again, industry standard dye sheets that we've used to show that there is much less dye fade. So one of the things that some people think would perhaps using beads would be more damaging to garments, but actually it's the complete opposite. It's almost counterintuitive, but it's a complete opposite, that the beads really care for the clothing and actually elongates the life of the clothing, because we don't take out the dye as much, because really the dye is coming out because of temperature and chemicals, and we use a lot less of both in our process. Some of the examples you can see on here, and certainly the kind of fading. This is done in 20 times in a conventional wash, and this is in Xeros, and this is the unwashed sheets here. So this really drove us to being able to deliver superior cleaning. So that was really our first and foremost, and that's key. But I guess in the kind of one of the things that a lot of people have been sort of thinking is, well, okay, that's all well and good. Can we got a better cleaning? But what else does that mean? Well, because we introduce another variable into the mix, and this is you'll have seen this probably a number of times over the years, but we introduce a fifth element into this inner circle here, which allows us to reduce all four of these areas. And by reducing those, depending on which ones you want to reduce for your business, it might be the time of processing that's important, it might be the temperature of wash that's important, or maybe just the amount of water. Because these are some of the results that we see, around about 75% water saving, anywhere between 50 and up to 100% hot water, because we generally wash at ambient temperatures, and then finally a decreased chemical usage, which all means that we reduce the operating costs of your laundry and of the machines that you use. Here's one of our customers who is actually in the room today, which is very kind of him to come along. We've got machines in Europe and the UK and also in North America. Here's just one of the examples of EJAS is using our equipment, and has been for 6 or 7 months now. We've also been used in industrial laundries in Europe. Again, they've really seen the benefit of being able to elongate the life of their kind of rental textiles. And then in America, Crest Cleaners is a dry cleaners that's based across Maryland and Virginia, and they've got 30 different sites, and they've been using Xeros now for over a year, and they're just rolling this program out into all of their cleaners. So just gives you a sample of the different people that have been using this and being able to go with it. So to finish, really, I talked a bit about the future and about trends and things moving forward, and it really is about adapting and being able to adapt your business and the way that you operate to embrace new technology and embrace innovations to continue to moving forward, so that we don't get left behind. We are about superior cleaning. That is absolutely fundamental, but key to that is being able to save people money, particularly in the current economic climate, so that's very important. And finally, we want to do this through sustainable means, so saving water and saving energy has got to be the thing that everybody's focusing on. And a lot of the politicians that we have spoken to have said that water will be the next big area and the big debates, and I think the water campus are going to get dragged into the area that the energy companies are already in, so that'll be the area that I think will have a lot of focus in the coming years. a month. That's about Zeros. If you've got any questions, I'll be around for the rest of the day. Thanks so much for listening. Enjoy your day.
Thanks very much indeed for that.